Hey there, it's Chris, and welcome to my review of the New Jersey Spartan Ultra we just did yesterday over in Vernon, New Jersey. And, well, rather than go and try to describe how everything went right here, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my Strava page because I think my description on that is probably going to be better than something I can come up with the top of my head right now. So, if I jump over to my Strava page here, the Spartan Vernon Ultra attempt, rain and cold make for a brutal day. So this was hands down the most miserable I've ever felt during a race in my life. The past 2 days have been 70 plus degrees and sunny, while this race was literally 30 degrees colder, with under your skin bone chilling rain, and I was straight up not having any level of enjoyment or feeling of accomplishment whatsoever. So rather than push it for another 5 plus hours and 15 more miles for a total of 34 plus miles to complete the second loop, I just called it at transition. It wasn't worth it. Couldn't stop shivering for another hour after leaving the course due to the cold and rain. Bad times. So that's about sums up my experience and probably a number of other people's experience on the day here. It was just an absolutely miserable, brutal, whatever adjective you want to use to describe this kind of day to do it. It was just one of those unfortunate days. We had a gorgeous couple days before, a little on the warm side, but gorgeous couple days before. I'm looking outside right now. It looks like a nice day again outside today. It was just one of those confluence of things that just led to a really, really rough time. And I'll be honest, I went this morning, I went kind of popped on Reddit real quick, just kind of see what the general consensus was. And me popping off and just leaving at the transition was actually probably the smarter move. From what I gather, from what I can gather from just looking at the social media stuff afterwards, is medical personnel was absolutely swamped with cases of hypothermia. I don't know if there are injuries on there, but I heard there was a lot of like hypothermia type things to the point where they didn't have the personnel to deal with everything and all the caseloads coming in. So they're just telling people if you're in like the early stages of something, essentially just walk it off. We can't do anything. We don't have the personnel to help you. And it seems like it was a recipe for just incredibly bad times. I know when I got in the car afterwards, it was around 12 o'clock, and it was like 12:30, a little afternoon when I got in the car to go home. And in the parking lot, the straight temperature was 41 degrees, and I had to go up and around the hill on the backside. And at the top of the hill, the car temperature had dropped to 39 degrees, and it was just like downpouring rain the whole time. So we were at that 100%. There was a very likely chance if you did not come 100% prepared, you were going to have hypothermia conditions. And yeah, it was just one of those types of days that bad stuff was going to happen. So unfortunately, if we come back to the map, just as a real quick here, my experience and when I go over the map, when we get to the kind of this part, for the most part, for me, anything that happened kind of from this whole area here, I am never going to remember a single thing that happened. None of this area meant anything during this race. None of that at all. The race really started, the memories of everything are going to start down here, and it's going to continue through the rest of the course here. And that's just what my experience was going to be. And let me come back. If you decided to continue on after transition, your experience is probably going to change and differ quite a bit from my own because, yeah, you're going to have more of this slog to go through. And there's that 4 mile stretch at the start there. After that first climb, you're going down that first hill. Where you go down the hill, you're in the open space, you go back up. That's like a 4 mile stretch of out in the open. And you were probably, again, you're being downpoured on at that point. You have the wind, you probably have more wind coming through with that. So your own experiences may differ a little bit than mine. Mine is just going to be based off of the one lap. That said, outside of the weather, I really do like the venue itself. The venue itself is really, really fair. Let me bring up the map one more time here. Because I think this is a great mix of everything that you can do. It has, unlike Killington, like the first hill kind of here is really it's a very manageable, Z, there you go, is a very manageable hill. Even this, that's not the button I'm looking for. even this second climb hill is a very kind of manageable. Yes, it's super, super steep at the start, but it's still a very kind of manageable hill. You have the flats if you have like the running speed you can go through. It just, I really like the venue itself. I did notice on my map reading, this part that I highlighted before was 100% accurate. I thought that was kind of suspicious, and it wound up being because you came down the hill. They had the sandbag carry at the bottom. You came up and then back down and came up. So I was kind of right to point that one out. I got something right. That said, when I gave some of the other estimates on here, they weren't necessarily as accurate. But we're gonna get into that in just a moment. But I think outside of just liking the venue, there are three distinct, I'm going to say, falters Spartan kind of put on himself throughout this day that was unrelated to the weather, and I just kind of want to get them off my chest. I'm going to get the two least important ones off my chest first, and then we'll kind of go into the obstacle breakdown and kind of course breakdowns will lead into number 3 in my mind on what kind of went wrong. So the first one I'm going to say was kind of an issue is like anything that's not related to the race itself just kind of felt like they had dropped the ball a number of times. Even just going in for the pre-registration and you go and you get your stuff. You got you have your time band, you have your timing chip, you have your start time band, you have all this stuff to give you, your bib, you have your thing. They just kind of give you a handful. It's like, here, take it. It's like, it's now sitting in my hand. I'm like, you used to at least have like a little sleeve you can put this in to carry it around. Now it's just like sitting in my hand. Like, okay, what do I do with this? Trying to find pocket space and stuff to shove these things in. It's like there used to be at least little things like that where they can just give you this like a little container to put this in would be great. But no, for this one, I'm very thankful. My parents actually came once again to this race, so I'm very thankful they did. And for spectators, my understanding is there's no real... Once we go off, we're gone for like the next 4 or 5, 6 hours, depending whatever your pace is between going off and coming back to the starting line again. So if you have spectators who want to watch you, if you're doing a beast and have spectators who want to watch you, you're gone for hours at a time. And on the spectator side, my understanding is there's no food, there's no real place there are no tents with seats or anything to sit down. There's really no anything for you on this. I know I had thrown out the link to live track this to my family and stuff who hadn't decided to come over so they can just kind of follow along. And after I had finished early, went home, because again, the race was still going on at that point. So I was like, all right, let's pop online just to kind of see how the live tracking is going and how this is going to work. Because frankly, the way the live tracking usually works is you have the timing mat next to like an obstacle somewhere on the course. And as you pass that timing mat, it would then be recorded on the live tracking with the name of the obstacle you just passed. And when we have a map with no obstacles listed on it, I thought this would be kind of curious how they're actually going to make this work. So I popped on the live tracking when I got home. It was like 5 o'clock. And I came up with this. SoCal. We weren't even being covered. I checked at 5 o'clock, we weren't covered. I checked at 7 o'clock, we weren't covered. I finally went back at like midnight, and they had the live tracking live at midnight. The race was done. I don't even. I just don't even on that. That said, if I'm gonna go back to, let's go back to my stats page on this for number 2. I'm going to call this Spartan Miles. As we can see on the page here, this course, for me, just getting to transition, wound up being 19.38 miles in the end. Look at that, I burned 2,000 calories. I'm pretty sure that's 100% wrong. Thanks, Strava. So 19.3. Now, if we take away penalty loops, for whatever, I'm not going to say for whatever reason, I just was having a really hard time with grip on certain things by the end. Things like Olympus, I was having a hard time grip. Z-Wall, I couldn't even get started on that thing. It's just a couple of these things I was having a hard time with. So if we take away the penalty loops, let's just call this an even 19 miles to get to transition. Now the Ultra Loop itself was around 4 miles, which means the Beast course was around 15 as just a base number on this. which I know they always joke about, oh, we have our Spartan miles, ha ha ha, that's funny. That's all and good. If you're doing a beast and you're adding, say, a mile and a half, because ideally this would be a 17.5 mile loop for the beast, you do two 17.5 mile loops, or you do 13.5 mile loops on a beast, that'll give you 27 miles. You have a 4 mile ultra loop, that gives you your 31, your 5K. All publicly available documentation for these races are there of 50K. There's 31 miles. If you go to the map on the side here, and whoop, if we go, we view and we zoom into this. So if we go on the publicly available information we have and we circle that, they have this being about 30.25 miles on this. So if you're going to make a plan, zoom out. So if you're trying to plan out a game plan for you to make these hard cutoff deadlines you need to make, these are all based off of publicly available information, aka a 31-mile race. So if you're doing, say, a 21 or a 25 minute per mile pace to try to go through to make these hard cutoff times for a 31-mile race, and all of a sudden now you have a 34-mile race minimum, not even counting penalty loops, if you get those on. If you're stacking up on a race like this where you have, like, it's downpouring, it's cold, you're just having no trouble gripping things, you could pump this up to almost a 35-mile course. But let's say your base mile is 34 and you're pacing yourself for a 31-mile race, that's 3 extra miles you need to go. At a 25 minute per mile pace, that's an extra hour 15 you don't have anymore to do the course. That is just gone. That's taken from you. By design. They designed this to be taken from you, which I find to be kind of curious. So I think, in my mind, if you're going to do your Spartan miles, yeah, you can do the haha, you can make like a beast course longer, you can make a super course or a sprint course longer. It's not going to affect those. But on an ultra where you have hard deadline times you need to hit, what you should do then is you can make that ultra loop longer or shorter to then account for these Spartan miles you give on the lower end or on the lower difficulty settings of the beast, the sprint, or the super. Now you can still put this on the map here. You can still draw this map out and have your ultra loop being 4 miles. But when race day comes, you may only have this much. Because, I mean, you're not showing the obstacles anyway. You can change the course. So you can make that ultra loop fit the hard deadlines you're going to give. Because, I mean, you've already changed your course down here. We had a sandbag carry that went up. It didn't follow that. I know it's looking at Strava. There was like an extra little loop up here. So you're already changing the course. So there are things you can do to then account for these hard deadline times. That said, by design, you made your hard deadline times literally impossible to meet. They had outside of transition, they had 2 things. You had to be at the 7-foot wall by, 6 o'clock, and you had to be at Olympus by 7 o'clock. So in my guess, it was going to be Olympus was going to be around here, and the 7-foot wall was going to be somewhere down there, if you saw my pre-map, or my pre-race kind of map reading one. What wound up happening, the 7-foot wall, I think, was somewhere kind of down in here-ish range. It was on the beast loop. And Olympus was down over here. This was around 12 miles to get to the 7-mile wall. It was around 16.5 miles to get to Olympus. So let's just say, best case scenario, I'm off a little bit on those, and it was 4 miles between those 2 distances that they gave 1 hour to do. At the pace you're going to get to the 7-foot wall at that 6 o'clock time is going to be about that 25 minute per mile, which means at the pace they would then expect you to keep going to go an extra 4 miles, they would expect you to now drop that to a 15 minute per mile to make it? No, that is physically impossible for anybody who's having a hard time getting to this first one in time. They made this course physically impossible to meet, or those kind of goals physically impossible to hit, which, again, this was by design. They knew what it was when they made the choice, which is just baffling to me. But that's maybe that's the me rant on that. I knew this video was going to turn into kind of a rant on stuff, but that's just I just don't understand design choices that are made in that kind of regard. Because then again, once you get from Olympus, they now gave you 2 hours to finish the course, and from there, realistically, you can do it in like an hour and a half or so. Is a more physically possible time to do that, while trying to bet the one before was just not. But okay, rant over. I'll probably put a time check in the description here to kind of then if you want to just watch my kind of course review, kind of step by step through this. But yeah, okay. So now I'm going to disappear for a little bit. We're going to go and do our actual kind of course review here. So I thought, of course, it started off kind of like normal. Going up the first hill is kind of nice, except the first obstacle kind of surprised me because again, we're maybe a quarter mile in, and it was the inverted wall, which I'm usually I'm used to seeing like an up and over, or go like a little maybe two of those like 5-foot walls you can kind of hop over real quick. Something that's really easy to kind of, you're not going to get bottlenecked with people back here. Again, this is when if your starting crowd is full, you're going to have like up to 250 people coming in here at once. And you want one or two obstacles in a row that really aren't going to bottleneck the group. So seeing inverted wall for my group was nothing because, again, we're ultras. We've done these before. We can pop over that real quick. But I'll be real curious how that goes over on, say, either the sprint or the super groups that are likely going to have a full starting corral and people who may not be experienced in doing one of these courses, because I have a feeling that's going to get log jammed real quick. But made that over real quick, and I guess being as I had just done the Killington one last year for the first time, this opening mile was like actually really kind of nice. It's a good day. It's still a little cool outside. It's not raining. It's just kind of overcast. I had dressed warm on their starting line knowing it was going to be cooler later on. So I think that part went really, really well. I do like that they had the 8-foot wall right at the top where you kind of overlook the hill. Actually, I think this entire kind of first almost half marathon section was pretty much identical to the race I had done 2 years ago in terms of obstacle placement and whatnot on here. So I was kind of familiar with how this was going to go and how it kind of played out as it went. But I went on the wall, kind of came down. I was quasi-surprised, quasi-not when they changed the sandbag carry down here. Because again, it makes more sense going uphill first than down. And I do like the idea of them just kind of then merging that with the plate drag on here. I think that's still a good idea. You get up to the top of the hill. It might be a very long thing you're doing with it, but it gets broken up by that plate drag, which I think was a really, really good idea. Because otherwise it was like a third of a mile long sandbag carry for that. Coming down to them flip-flopping the water station and aid station over here, I thought was a curious call. But that's neither here nor there. Whoop, hold on 1 second. Resize 95% so we can fit on the screen. I want to make sure we fit on the screen here. Yeah, I remember my memory was this climb was absolutely terrible going into this race, so I kind of gave it a lot of leeway kind of going in, but really it just kind of the first half mile of this climb was really bad, and the rest actually was fairly doable. So I didn't think this was, at this point I'm still feeling really good. We're going up. I haven't had to stop for anything. I'm still feeling great. I think I had like a 17-minute mile or something pace going at that. We got on out we start getting into the ultra loop here. And I know I was a little bummed kind of looking at it, but it was kind of peaceful going through kind of like this whole lake area, going by another lake, going by another lake. It was kind of nice getting that kind of change of atmosphere in here. It was different than the other stuff we had seen. So I will give it props on that. We did have experiences we didn't have on the Beast trail running areas. So I'll give it more props for that than my memory had it from last time going through. But this is also where we got the first of what's going to come up as an issue later on. Of somewhere probably in here, we had our first obstacle in the ultra loop of that barbed wire crawl. And although it's not a problem over here, we're going to get into that being an issue as this race goes on. Otherwise, it was kind of standard fare going up what used to be Twister somewhere in this area before it now became that 7-foot wall. And really, somewhere along here-ish, we had kind of gotten past that halfway point on the Ultra. We're coming back. We start hearing little pitter-patters of rain up in the trees. We can't feel anything yet. Every now and again, you see a couple little drops on the rocks, whatever, around. But we're in total canopy cover. We can't feel anything. It's all good at this point. We know it's coming. But as of right now, we're still doing fine. We're like 10, 11, 12 miles in. All of this is still canopy covered. We're still doing good. We're moving through. And then we kind of jump back onto the super loop down in here. You're kind of the sprint/super loop. And this is really where everything just fell apart and the quote-unquote real race began. Because at this point now, this is where we start zigzagging back and forth across the ski slopes as they go up. We might be going right up a ski slope. We might deck into the woods a little bit, then come back out onto one. And from here on out, there was no avoiding the rain. All the way up here, you're kind of in the rain. Then we get into like that super muddy kind of bog-like trail area down here. We might have like kind of dry-ish trails and nice runnable stuff here. We are in the goopy bog stuff up in this top corner. And it's starting to get kind of not as fun. It's not miserable yet, but it's not quite as fun during this upper climb. I also had my first fail of the day on the stairway to Sparta, which I believe was over there, where I had these two like really kind of buff, strong guys right in front of me, and they go and try it. They get absolutely nowhere. And here's like little skinny 160-pound, 155-pound, whatever me going up here doing this. And I got myself up to like the very last hold, and I just got my fingertip on it, but not quite the whole thing. And when I kind of just missed that one grip, I'm making hand gestures, which mean absolutely nothing when my map is up right now. But yeah, when I just didn't miss that, I couldn't grip. My other hand just lost grip, and I kind of slid down. That was my first. I've never failed that one before. That was my first time ever failing Stairway to Spartan. It wasn't a good start to the rest of this course. I should have had that one. But yeah, did that, kind of came around. We passed by the lake area. Then from here on out, for like the next like 2 miles, I keep wondering, did I just miss Olympus? Where's Olympus? I must have missed that one. The entire way down, I'm like, where's Olympus? Where's Olympus? Where's Olympus? It's supposed to be this one of these hard numbers. It's got to be around here somewhere. But instead, we come down, and I get to my old friend, this spear throw down, like I said, it was more like by the water station there. Spear throw at the water station, where I believe of every single person I saw looking down at the hill, me personally involved in the thing, and as I'm leaving, I believe only one person hit that spear. As for me, unfortunately, my throw was, if you had the circle, you had that little kind of red ring painted around that was like an inch wide. My spear hit the red ring on that, like near the bottom of the target. I was like, if the target were literally like 1 inch bigger, I would have just been on my way. But unfortunately, it was just one of those things. It happened. And it was one of those things. It was so close. But close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. It doesn't count for spear throw. And then we start getting into the real course, which was down here and up there. In terms of obstacle-wise, this was the obstacle course there. And I'm just going to put a little circle there and say this is a big question mark area for me in terms of course design and Spartan going a direction that I think is a little interesting, and we'll go into that. So we come down this steep hill. I still love this hill. This is still the best hill like ever, I think, on any Spartan course. You look down, you're looking down to the top of like the carnival, whatever carnival area, the area down at the bottom. You see the tents set up. You can hear the music blasting. You kind of slowly make your way down. I just love that hill. Going down that hill is just an experience. It's awesome. And we get to what actually wound up being the second low crawl of the day on the bottom. First low crawl, I forget if it was up in the super loop, it may have been the end of the beast loop. There was a low crawl somewhere else in here. I'll have to watch somebody else's video later on to find out where. But so now we've already had a barbed wire crawl, and this is now the second low crawl that they have on the course. And the low crawl is it's a curious obstacle. I think it was a bold move to put in a very new obstacle on here and then do it twice per lap. I think that was a bold move on their part. And I guess I'm thrown off on it because at this point, I don't have a good technique of going through. If you try to go through forwards, I had a ball cap on to keep the rain off my glasses. So that would keep pulling the cap off. Your head could get stuck on thing. If you go sideways, my hydration vest in the back was getting stuck in the things. I heard people were getting their legs stuck in the stuff. I don't think anybody has any real good technique of getting through. And it's not that the difficulty is in... It's not that it's hard because it's difficult to go through. It feels harder going through because it's frustrating to go through that one. Because you know what you want to do and you're just constantly getting stuck on there. Although in retrospect, I would think maybe a technique to do this to keep from getting stuck is almost maybe go backwards, stick your butt up in the air, go backwards through. And that can kind of help keep the net off your head, keep the net off your vibration, your hydration vest, and that might be able to keep things working a little better. So I'm going to be curious how people come up with ways to go through this efficiently as time goes on. Efficiencies will be found as time goes on, but right now we're not there yet. It's going to take a little trial and error to find some ways to make this work. But pretty much immediately after doing this low crawl down here, yes, we have a slip wall, we start going up this hill, and I'm going to actually go ahead and zoom my way in on this, because this is worth zooming in for. So we have our low crawl down here, we're coming up the hill, and we have an uphill barbed wire crawl. We have followed immediately, like literally yards later, by Olympus, which thankfully they finally figured out Olympus, that you can take and you can add or remove panels as you go. I think having a 3-panel Olympus on a sprint distance makes a lot of sense. The 6-panel one, everyone sees it and they just touch it and go no and walk away. So taking some of the panels off, I think was a great move on their part. But again, just because everything was so dang slick and there was no grip, everyone was still just taking the penalty loop anyway. But I think that was actually a really smart decision on them. But then immediately yards after that, we have another long barbed wire crawl coming up here. Immediately after that, you have Herc hoist. Immediately kind of after that, if I remember this correctly, we have the sandbag carry. Immediately after that, we had that chain carry, which I was like, okay, we have the chain. This now eliminates the need for the Atlas carry. So our chain carry, now that takes the place of Atlas carry. Turn the corner, we now immediately have Atlas carry. Come around the bend, we now immediately have this bucket carry. So in this roughly kind of 1 mile span, we have, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 really kind of hard. You can call like these crawls big strength. I don't know if they get classified as a strength thing or their own kind of thing, but that is 9 elements that are no joke, that are back to back to back to back to back to back to back from each other. It was just, I'm not sure about that design decision. Maybe it's just, that might just be a me thing, but it was just so, I understand what Spartan's trying to do, and they want to push the difficulty level of things on this. But in my mind, I'm looking at this course, and what the course doesn't have compared to previous years is they don't have the over-unders. They didn't have monkey bars. They didn't have vertical cargo. They didn't have helix from a couple years ago. They didn't have pipe layer for a couple years ago. You remember they used to have a pipe crawl a couple years ago. They don't have the 8-foot box on there. All these kind of, although 8-foot box is either derpy fun if you know the trick or it's nearly impossible if you don't. But they took away a lot of these elements that were just kind of derpy fun. Just kind of like, they weren't necessarily difficult, but they were just obstacles in the way that they'll take up a little bit of time to go over. It breaks up a jogging or breaks up kind of a running pace. They're just derpy fun to do kind of thing. They took out all the derpy fun ones, and instead we got this area down here where it was just strength after strength after strength after strength after strength after strength. It was just, it almost felt like it was too much for what I'm interested in one of these courses being. And to me, I think it's a design decision they've made, and I know there's absolutely a target audience, the target kind of group for this type of direction they're heading in. But seeing as they took out literally every one of these kind of derpy fun kind of things they used to have before, and they've all now been replaced with strength, 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 strength. I know there's a target audience, and I also know that I am not the target audience anymore for this. If I come here, I would like to have a combination of strength and just fun doing these. And I think I was missing on the obstacle side the fun element that is more common, or that used to be more common kind of in around those kind of either pre and post kind of COVID days, whether it's like right before or right after. There used to just be elements of fun during those. And I think it was missing that on the obstacle layout side of things. That said, I do really like the idea of that twister multi-rig hybrid they stuck at the end. I thought that was a really good idea on that. I think it failed in two regards though, in that putting it right after all of these strength things here just took away arm strength and grip, so it was hard to give a legitimate shot at making that one. And at the same time, the rain itself just wasn't helping it either. And just grip, let alone, was not working. Probably, I know for me it wasn't working very well. Seeing all the people doing the penalty loops on a lot of these things, grip wasn't working too well for anybody, it seemed like at this point. But I really do like that one, but I think it needs to have less stuff before it to kind of make it shine the way I think that one should be able to shine, or actually could shine. But that's, and then yeah, I got to the transition area, and this entire way down this hill, I was just kind of playing in my head, do I want to keep going? Do I not want to keep going? I knew I was cold, I was wet, I had the raincoat on, I had a thermal on, I had everything on I was kind of supposed to have on. But once the water got in, I was still freezing and whatnot. And although I hadn't started shivering yet, once I made the call to stop and I was walking to the car, I started shivering. And then once I got in the car, it was just uncontrollable. Once I got to the car, I'm like trying to call my brothers to see how the live tracking one went online. I'm holding the phone because thankfully my parents were driving, because I would have been like this on the steering wheel the whole time. And my hand is holding the phone, just doing this for like the next 40 minutes out there or whatever, 40 minutes to an hour just after the race. It was uncontrollable shaking. And seeing how the hypothermia situation, and reading about that this morning, about how that hypothermia stuff just spread out throughout like everyone on the course as the thing went on, it was definitely a good call to cut it when I did. I feel really bad now because since doing the YouTube videos, I've now attempted 2 ultras, and I've now DNF'd both of them. Those are the only 2 I've ever DNF'd in my life. So I feel kind of bad on this part, but it is what it is. Will I do these again? I'm not sure. Again, I see Spartan moving in a direction that I'm not really sure I'm interested in following along with. If they want to start taking out their fun, I'm going to say like their kind of derpy fun things, and replace them with just kind of harder, stronger, you want to be like beefy, stronger guy to go through, that's a good direction, but I don't think it's for me. I might be more of like a savage race or something else. There are I don't know if there are a lot, but there are a number of other options available for this that are just kind of go out and have like backyard derpy kind of obstacle course fun that I can do in here. And I think at this point in time, I might be leaning more towards that than just trying to beat myself down as I go through these. It's just, I've gone through my kicks. I've done these things for years. At this point, I now know what I kind of want. I don't need to prove anything. It feels like I don't need to prove anything anymore. And just, I want to have a good time during this. So If they want to go and just do straight strength stuff, that's fine. I'll probably be back maybe for shorter races. I might do this like supers or something. But in terms of like the ultra long things, like an ultra, this might just actually be the swan song for that. It kind of feels bad, kind of the way this played out, but it just kind of is the way it is this time. I don't know what to say on that. That said, future of any kind of fitness stuff on this channel, I'm not sure where I want to go. A lot of this that I've done so far, these last 21 sessions I put in here, I guess this is session now 22, that I had geared towards this ultra and prep. A lot of that was just kind of documenting how I went about things when I was prepping for other ultras in the past as well. So if I go back, like, say, 10, 20, 30 years from now, if I want to come back and see what I've done, yes, I have written notes on things I've done too. But I just wanted to kind of have these things out there. If somebody else can use some of this information, that's great. If they can't, and if I just use this for myself, just kind of go through in the future, I can say this is what I used to do, I'm happy with that as well. Going forwards, I do things like duathlons in the summer sometimes. If I'm not doing Spartan stuff, I'll do duathlons. I'll do kind of road races. I might do like half marathon type stuff, things like that. So I could put down other types of events that I do as well on this channel. I'm not sure where I'm going to go on that. It may not be a dedicated, here's my training leading up into something anymore. It might be as inspiration strikes, I can put it out. If I have a couple of good rides in the area or whatnot that I want to put out there. Because I do live in a gorgeous area not too far from where I'm living right now. It doesn't take long to get out to like kind of the little woods. You get into like you get woods, you get trails, you get rocks. We do have all that stuff in the area, so it would be nice to show some of that off. So if you're at all interested in some of that, you can let me know in the comments. If you learned anything from this whole segment, whether it helped or whether it didn't help on this, if you can just like give a thumbs up or something. If you want to see more of these things, just like give a thumbs up and I'll try to put out some more of these fitness videos. Otherwise, I might jump into more of the art stuff again in the immediate future. And then sometime during the summer, I'll come back into some more of these kind of fitness related activities that I'm doing. But that's it for that. I'm rambling now at this point. If you made it the entire way and you got that buckle for completing the ultra, dang man, you did it. You earned that one. If not, and you attempted it, and this just wound up being one of those days, I 100% understand that. It was definitely just one of those days. And I'm just going to leave it there. And yes, sit back. Whichever way this worked out for you, you did it. You did what you had to do. It was just that. So sit back now the next few days, recover, and enjoy.